A part of 90+% of domestic violence relationships, financial abuse is sort of the hidden weapon that keeps many, many victims stuck. If domestic violence is a pattern of behaviors that one person in a relationship uses to control and have power over the other, the financial abuse is a pattern of behaviors using finances or the ability to get or manage finances for the purpose of control. This is actually one of the most common types of abuse in domestic violence relationships, and yet one of the least understood. So let's look at some of the different ways that financial abuse plays out in domestic violence relationships. Sometimes this looks like scrutinizing everything that you do with your money, demanding receipts, making you feel like you have no freedom or autonomy. You're not able to actually make decisions about finances on your own, even if it's your own money, giving you an allowance or a certain amount of money that you're allowed to spend and nothing else. And they still often want to know every detail that you're doing with that money. An example of this, my son, for his first birthday, I got him a little cake and his first pair of shoes and one toy. And I was made to feel like absolute crap because he didn't need shoes. He's one. Why would he need shoes? Where is he going to go? He's barely walking. Never mind the fact that he's learning to walk and he needs shoes if we're outside and things like that. It was something that would make sense, was logical, was needed and important as a parent, should have been something that was important to the other parent. It didn't fall within what I was allowed to spend, my allowance, which was essentially nothing. Restricting employment opportunities can also look like stopping you from working, period, like you're not allowed to have a job. Sometimes it's beating you up or getting into a fight before you're supposed to go to work so that you don't go to work, or you're embarrassed to go to work if you have some kind of physical injuries on you, or you're not capable of doing the work because of emotional, psychological crap that's going on at home, or maybe you have an opportunity to advance in work, to go to a training thing or something like that, and they're not okay with you doing that. They throw a fit and they're jealous and how dare you spend this time, or go away, or there's an issue with these people, whatever excuse that they want to make. This also can apply to your education. So maybe they don't want you to go to college. Any of those things that are going to give you the potential for some kind of freedom out from under their thumb is a problem for an abuser, because the whole intent is to control. So why would I want you as an abuser to get a better education so that you could get a better job? Because then you might leave me. Then you might be able to succeed on your own and not want me around anymore. So I'm going to keep you restricted and small. Unauthorized financial actions. Using your money without permission, spending money on credit cards with or without permission and not paying them back, using financial resources like government assistance, EBT, subsidy, things like that, without your permission or against what you want, putting bills in your name and not paying them to destroy your credit. I had to file bankruptcy after I left my ex-husband for this exact reason, because he had destroyed his credit before we got together. So then everything got put into my name. And then because it was in my name and I wasn't important, there was no reason to pay it. And that's intentional. Then when people leave their abuser, their credit is destroyed, they often have very little financial means, they're operating from a deficit. And then if they have kids involved, then they have to figure out how to support and take care of these kids in addition to all of this hole that they've got to dig themselves out of. And it's strategic. Stealing or withholding money or refusing to give it to you. A couple of videos ago, we looked at domestic violence as a whole through the lens of Mel B and different interviews that she had done. And she was the primary breadwinner in the family. She is famous. She was making money. And yet her husband was taking that money, telling her that he was managing it for her to be helpful to her. And then he wasn't giving her access to it. Coercion, coercing you into taking out loans or other bills in your name, like we put all of the stuff in my name and then didn't pay it. We also bought a truck because he needed a truck, but he couldn't have a truck unless I co-signed for it because his credit was too bad. So I co-signed for it. and then that didn't get paid on, and so then that got repossessed, and that was on my credit too. And it can look like preventing access to bank accounts. Sometimes that's access to your bank account, like a joint bank account. Sometimes it's just not even putting you on it. When my ex-husband and I were together, he had the income, he had the bank account. I was not allowed to see it. I didn't have any access to it, anything to do with it at all, and that kept me completely financially dependent. If we haven't met yet, my name is April Hardy. I am a survivor who now educates women on how to be safe from scary exes, obviously in lots of different relative ways, like financial safety, physical safety, home security, emotional safety, etc. If those kinds of topics are interesting to you, make sure that you subscribe so that you don't miss a video. Why it's so effective. By creating financial dependency and limiting options, financial abuse leaves victims feeling trapped, isolated, and powerless. Emotional. Victims often feel powerless and dependent. It makes them feel powerless within that relationship and powerless for getting out of it. They don't feel like they have any control. They don't feel like they have anything to offer necessarily. I didn't feel like I was intelligent enough to get any kind of a job that was going to be worthwhile by the time that I got out of my marriage, because this isn't the only avenue for abuse, but it is one of kind of a systematic destroying of a person. Practical. Without resources, it makes it very difficult for somebody to get out of a domestic violence relationship, especially when there are kids involved, but even just a single person. Studies report that 57% of homeless women cite domestic violence as an immediate cause for their homelessness. Many women and children are homeless because of domestic violence, because when they're coming out of these relationships, they don't have a good support system in place often as part of the domestic violence process, the abuser process, and they don't have a means for taking care of themselves financially, and they don't have a belief or a confidence in their ability to do it necessarily either, to be able to provide for themselves. That makes many women go back. A lot of times, women will leave abusers multiple times before they get out, finally, if they get out, and people don't understand why they would go back. Finance is one of the biggest reasons, because if they can't provide for their kids, they go back. What alternative do you think that you have? You've already been depending on this person. They have been providing for you. You go where you are familiar with, where you know you will be taken care of to some extent or another. Nearly half of all domestic violence survivors say that financial abuse was one of the primary reasons that they felt like they couldn't leave that relationship. Free resources that I recommend are the hotline.org for general domestic violence information, including financial abuse information, and domesticshelters.org for resources as far as finding a domestic violence hideaway, shelter, place to go if that's something that you need. Financial abuse is one of the topics that we cover in the Scary Ex Survival System, our online program for women who have recently left an abuser, who believe that their lives and quite often their kids' lives are in danger from their ex. You can go to the links in the description for more information on that program. Question of the day: have you experienced financial abuse, or do you know somebody who has? If you found this video helpful, you are definitely going to want to watch the next one, where we're going to talk about what to do if you find yourself in a financial abuse situation. You don't want to miss that practical advice. Until I see you again, please stay safe.